What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the CS Podcast presented by the NFL Draft Bible. We're only a few weeks removed from the 2015 NFL Draft, and we're already starting to look at talent that will be entering the National Football League next year. So be sure to check us out at NFLDraftBible.com. Once again, I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt, and I put together a heck of a show for you guys today, as we'll be focusing on the Detroit Lions. Last week, we focused on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Greg Allman of the Tampa Bay Times and Dante Dye, wide receiver for the Bucs. This week, we'll be focusing on the Lions. First, I'll be talking to Dave Birkett from the Detroit Free Press. He's on the Lions beat. You guys can give him a follow on Twitter at Dave Birkett. Check out his work as well at freep.com. We'll get his thoughts on how he feels about the Lions' 2015 draft class, how that defense will perform after taking a major hit by losing their best defensive player, Ndamukong Suh, in free agency, positional battles, and we'll hear what Dave's expectations are for this team this season. Also, I'll be joined by former Jackson State defensive back Ryan Griffin. He actually participated in the Detroit Lions rookie minicamp a couple of weeks ago. Left without signing a contract, but I'm sure he'll get another shot sooner than later. He was a playmaker at Jackson State. Ryan and I will be talking about his NFL draft weekend, what it was like for him. Was he expecting to hear his name called? And what it was like to receive a tryout from his hometown Detroit Lions. He spoke pretty highly of the coaching staff there as well. He thought he had a great rookie minicamp, so who knows, maybe they'll be giving him another call. Time will tell, that's for sure. You guys can follow Ryan on Twitter at RyanGriffin26. You guys can follow me at Chris Shanafelt. And be sure to check out this podcast as well as some of my other work at NFLDraftBible.com, at YouTube.com/ChristianRE722, and at ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com. That's at ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com. Now, without further ado, here's my interview with Dave Birkett of the Detroit Free Press. You guys are listening to the CS Podcast presented by the NFL Draft Bible. Check out the website at NFLDraftBible.com. Once again, I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt, and I'm now joined by Dave Birkett from the Detroit Free Press. You guys can give him a follow on Twitter at Dave Birkett. Check out his awesome work at freep.com. Dave, thanks for taking some time today. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're a few weeks removed from the 2015 NFL Draft, and in the first round, the Detroit Lions selected Laken Tomlinson, guard out of Duke. Now, last year, Matthew Stafford was sacked 45 times, which was tied for fourth most in the league. So there's certainly some work to have been done there to that offensive line. When you seen that they traded back 5 spots with the Broncos, what were you thinking at the moment? And when Detroit was on the clock with the 28th overall pick, were you surprised or taken back at all that they selected Tomlinson?
Mildly. I hadn't heard them connected with Tomlinson much before the draft, though. That's about the area that I think a lot of people expected him to go, either early second round, late first, and the Lions certainly had a need at the position. So I guess my only surprise was that they hadn't been connected with him much, but you knew they were looking at offensive line. You looked at all the offensive linemen that had gone off the board before that. Tomlinson was the best one left. So really, from the Lions standpoint, it came down to taking Laken Tomlinson to shore up that offensive line, taking Malcolm Brown from Texas to help them at defensive tackle. And really I think the offensive line was a bigger need, and certainly they got a guy that they think is going to be, a guy that plays and starts for 8 or 10 years and, gives them no trouble off the field and plays at a really high level.
And, of course, they also reacquired Manny Ramirez with the trade that they made with the Denver Broncos to trade back. Now, in the second round, the Lions took running back Amir Abdullah of Nebraska. I found this to be a pretty interesting pick because they of course, lost Reggie Bush, who was kind of lost in the mix last year anyway, as Joique Bell seemed to be their go-to guy at running back. But in 2013, they were a pretty good running back duo, those two, Bell and Bush. Is it too far-fetched to think that at least by mid-season or at the end of the season that Abdullah could be the main guy in the backfield?
No, I think that's definitely the direction that they're trending. You don't spend a second-round pick on a running back in the NFL these days unless you think that guy can do that for you. And, Jim Caldwell has always, from the minute he took the Lions job, he said he's wanted a backfield by committee, that he doesn't think that you can do it with just one running back in the NFL unless that guy's Adrian Peterson or Shady McCoy type. But I think what they have right now is they have a nice little mix of the three. Joique Bell, he's probably going to be the starter week 1. Abdullah's going to play a whole lot. He might handle return duties. Like you said, I could see him starting, by the midpoint of the season or later on in the season. He certainly adds that, that home run element to the backfield that they lost when they cut Reggie Bush. And then Theo Riddick, don't forget about him either. We didn't carry the ball much last year. I'd be surprised if he carried the ball a whole lot this year, but he absolutely adds a pass-catching element to that backfield, and somebody that, you can play him and Abdullah or him and Bell out there at the same time and flank him out, put him at the slot receiver position. He gives the Lions a lot of options. So really you saw what they did with the first 2 picks in the draft, and that was a big focus this offseason, was upgrading the run game. They spent a lot of resources doing that, and they expect that to pay dividends this year.
That's right. I mean, you mentioned Theo Riddick. He was a guy that you kind of heard quite a lot about towards the end of last season, so it's going to be interesting to see how all 3 of those running backs work out this season for the Lions. Now, overall, how do you feel about the talent that the Detroit Lions are bringing in from this year's draft class?
I mean, Martin Mayhew always says he wants to get 3 starters and, 3 backups and 3 developmental guys from his rookie class, including undrafted guys. And I'm not sure they're going to have 3 right-away starters. They're definitely going to have some contributors. Laken Tomlinson should start at left guard right away. Abdullah is going to play a whole lot and as a virtual starter at running back, 1B if nothing else. And, I think the 3rd-round pick, Alex Carter, I like him. I like that draft pick, but I don't think he's going to play much of a role for the team this year. He's just 20 years old, developmental cornerback more than anything. I think you're going to look for the contributions that you're going to get from him in a year or 2 down the road. So I'm not sure they got those 3 starters, though they will get a couple more contributors in their 5th-round pick, fullback Mike Burton out of Rutgers, Gabe Wright, their defensive tackle. They took him in the 4th round. He's going to be a rotational guy. So they got some guys to fill some needs. I just don't know if it's enough to offset what they lost this offseason.
Rookie minicamp was, I believe, about 2 weeks ago or so. Were you in attendance at all? And if so, was there anybody that, whether they drafted the guy or not, was there anybody that caught your eye at all?
Oh, yeah, I was there, but look, the Lions, they do things a little different than most teams, a little different than they did under Jim Schwartz, too. They don't give us much access at all. We get the standard 20-minute window that we would get during regular season practices, where you don't get to see a whole lot. You see individual drills and nothing else. So I'd be lying if I said I had a good concept of what those guys were able to do, on my own. I mean, obviously from talking to people, Abdullah is a guy that's going to play a lot. I think that shouldn't be, understated. He is a guy that they think a whole lot of. Can't tell a whole lot on those offensive linemen yet. A guy like Laken Tomlinson obviously is going to play plenty, but there's no pads in those camps. And I think the Lions, as optimistic as they are, they would even tell you that you can't tell a whole lot by what they've seen from him yet. And then the one undrafted guy I think that maybe did stand out a little bit, Vernon Johnson, a wide receiver. He's a guy that when you look at the Lions roster, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to crack that top 5 receivers and make the team. He might have a shot depending on what he does at training camp, but at the very least, he looks like he'd be a strong candidate for the practice squad this fall.
Once again, Dave Birkett of the Detroit Free Press joining the CS podcast, brought to you guys by the NFL Draft Bible, NFLDraftBible.com. And Dave, moving away from the draft a little bit, the Lions lost the best player that was on their defense over the last 4 or 5 years in Ndamukong Suh. He went on to sign a monster contract with Miami. On the first day of the new league year, the Lions did trade for Haloti Ngata, but how much of an impact will not having Ndamukong Suh on that defensive line have on this entire defense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that can't be understated. Look, Suh is the best defensive tackle in the game, and the Lions let him walk. They didn't want to, pay. They didn't want to pay what it was going to take to keep him. I think they mismanaged that situation starting from last year with the salary cap. I've written that. I thought they had an opportunity. I would have franchised the guy there. As ludicrous as that money may seem to pay him $27 million, close to it, I thought he was that important to the defense, and they had ways that they could have made it so that would happen. You mentioned Ngata. Look, Ngata's a really good player. If you're not going to have Suh, I think they did a good thing in trading for Haloti Ngata, giving up 4th, 5th round picks to do that. But Ngata's a better run stuffer than he is a pass rusher. As I look at the Lions defense right now, I just don't see it being as dominant as they were last year. I don't see as many guys as you have to game plan for. I think Suh, he affected the opposing offenses in so many different ways, and he helped some of his defensive teammates in so many different ways. And I think the Lions, they're hoping that Haloti Ngata can do that this year, but there's no guarantee. Obviously, Ngata didn't have his best season last year. He's 31 years old right now. He had the PED suspension at the end of the season, so it remains to be seen exactly what he's going to give you on the field.
What's the feeling around Detroit with tight end Eric Ebron? This was their first-round pick last year, I believe, 10th overall. Some thought that they may have reached for him by taking him that early, and he did struggle a little bit last year. Now, obviously, being a first-round pick, you're going to be given some extra time to prove yourself, but do you get the feeling that the coaches are just as confident in Ebron as they were last year?
Yeah, I think the coaching staff and the front office and everybody still believes in him, and I think he's in for a big season this year. Now, I don't know, when you say big season, 50 catches, does that count? Because, Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, those are still going to be your top two receiving options. The running backs, you mentioned Theo Riddick earlier, not just him, Bell, Abdullah, those guys are all going to have catches. So, I don't know exactly how big of a season Ebron is going to have, but I do expect him to take some steps forward this year. And I think the public opinion here, a lot of people are down on Ebron. Just because of who went after Ebron. You look at Odell Beckham going a couple picks later, and Aaron Donald going right after that, and the Lions having this need at defensive tackle now, and some of the resources that they spent on the offensive line this year, and Taylor Lewan and Zach Martin and those guys going after Ebron. So I think that's a lot of why fans are down on the pick. But when you talk to people inside the organization, they think Ebron is still the same talent that he was coming out. He's got to solve some of the drop issues. He's got to mature a little bit, but they think that he could be in for a pretty big year.
Is there any positional battles that we could be keeping an eye on? I mean, we spoke a little bit about the running back position already. It does look like there may be some open spots at wide receiver. I mean, anything we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, the two I would say would be, wide receiver, where, again, I think those top couple guys are locked in, and I think Corey Fuller is pretty safe in his spot, but we'll see what happens with the fourth and fifth receiver jobs. Vernon Johnson, I mentioned him. I wouldn't rule him out, but he's an undrafted rookie. He's going to have a lot to prove. T.J. Jones, a sixth-round pick last year. He's a guy that spent all of his rookie season on the PUP list. Another guy that I think, they have some expectations for. They think that maybe eventually he could be a player. At the very least, I don't know that they want to give up on him yet when your other options are Lance Moore, Ryan Broyles, Jeremy Ross. So I think those are just some names to watch at the receiver spot. They're not going to have a huge impact on the season unless Calvin Johnson or Golden Tate gets hurt. And then at the cornerback spot, I mentioned Alex Carter, the rookie third-round pick. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he contributes. I see him as more a fourth cornerback this year, in the fact that and not that they gave him a lot of money, but by any means, but Josh Wilson, they tabbed him to be their nickel cornerback this year. I think he's going to get first chance to win that job. And then they got a couple young guys coming off injury, Nevin Lawson and Bill Bentley, who both will have an opportunity to make the team, but neither is a lot because they also took Quandre Diggs in the sixth round this year. So they have some young cornerbacks. I don't know how much upside a lot of those guys beyond Carter have, but it'll be interesting at least to see who emerges with a roster spot out of that group.
All right, sounds good. Wide receiver, cornerback, look forward to those positional battles. Now, just a couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you go, Dave. I really do appreciate your time. I know we're still quite a bit away from preseason, let alone from the regular season, but as of right now, what are your expectations for this year's Detroit Lions team, who are playing in a tough NFC North division with, the greatest quarterback in the league in Aaron Rodgers, and, of course, the up-and-coming Vikings? They're not a team to overlook either.
And a tough schedule. I mean, you look at how the Lions start off the season. It's not going to be an easy one. They got a bunch of Monday night games, or a bunch of primetime games, I guess I should say, in there. They go on the road for 3 of their first 4. At Seattle being one of those. So I think we'll find out early what the Lions have. And I would expect this team to, even though they lost Ndamukong Suh, I think they have enough to still be a playoff contender this year. You look at defense. I expect it to take a step back, but maybe not. It's not going to fall off the map. I think they just have too much, good talent across the board on defense that they're not going to fall off the map. And offensively, you need to see Matthew Stafford take another step forward. You need to see him be a little bit more consistent, and that offensive line that has a whole lot of young players on it, really develop and become a weapon that they can rely on. So I think that, those two things combined, still having some holes on the lines on both sides of the ball, I think they're probably not as good as they were last year, but I still think they'll be in that 8-9 win mix and be contending for a playoff spot at the end of the day.
All right, and lastly, I want you to finish this sentence for me, Dave. Since you have them, finishing with possibly a playoff appearance, finish the sentence. The Lions will make the playoffs if.
The Lions will make the playoffs if, let's see, that's a tough one. I think if Matthew Stafford takes a sizable step forward as a quarterback. Last year he did a good job cutting down on turnovers. I think they need him to make more strides in his consistency and his accuracy. You look at, even in the playoff game, he had everybody likes to point at that Brandon Pettigrew, the pass interference penalty that was picked up. Look, Stafford underthrew that ball. He hit the defensive player in the back with the ball. That was a bad throw. And on top of that, Calvin Johnson was streaking across the other side of the field open. If Stafford makes a better read on that, makes a better throw on that, the Lions win that playoff game. They go into the second round, and they're playing at Seattle for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. So I think they need Matthew Stafford to make big strides this year. And if he can do that, I think that means the Lions have a shot at winning the division and maybe making some noise in January.
Okay, so even with Ndamukong Suh moving on, if Matthew Stafford steps his game up to another level, you see them making the playoffs. Very interesting. Dave, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I really do appreciate your time. Can you tell our listeners where we can check your work at before I let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter anytime, all the time, at Dave Birkett, Birkett, and then, of course, Freak.com with all of our Lions news there or online or on our app, Lions Extra. You can find that at the iTunes store or at the App Store, whatever your device is. But appreciate it. It was a pleasure doing this, and we'll do it again sometime.
Hey, sounds great. Thanks a lot, Dave. Take care, all right?
All right, take care.
There he goes, Dave Birkett. Again, a great follow on Twitter at Dave Birkett, doing great work for the Detroit Free Press at freep.com. He believes that if Matthew Stafford can up his game up to the next level, that this team will make the playoffs. Hard to disagree with that. I mean, even with the loss of Suh on defense over the last few years, we've seen that you must have a solid quarterback to have success in this offensive-driven league. And with Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, maybe even Eric Ebron has a bounce-back year, and with the weapons they have in the backfield, it's hard not to like Matthew Stafford's chances of having success this year, in my opinion, especially with the help they're bringing in on that offensive line. Anyways, great stuff from Dave Birkett. Now it's time to shift gears and talk to somebody who participated in the Detroit Lions rookie minicamp, defensive back out of Jackson State University, Ryan Griffin. Welcome back to the CS Podcast, presented by the NFL Draft Bible, NFLDraftBible.com. I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt, and right now I'm joined by former Jackson State defensive back. He recently participated in the Detroit Lions rookie minicamp. He's Ryan Griffin. Thanks for taking some time to chat today, Ryan. How's everything going, man?
Everything is going great. I cannot complain.
Hey, good to hear, good to hear. Now, Ryan, I'm a big fan of Walter Payton, the best running back in NFL history, hands down, in my opinion. I mean, every time he got the ball, everyone thought there was at least a chance that he would be able to take it to the house for a touchdown. He's a fellow Jackson State alum. I'm just curious, how does he remember not only around the football team, but around campus? I mean, is Walter Payton still talked about a lot around Jackson State?
Oh, yeah, Walter Payton forever will be a legend at Jackson State. Positive, his number is retired. Nobody wears 34. He has like a whole fitness center dedicated to him. I believe his brother is like the tennis coach or something like that at Jackson State. So, I mean, he's still talked about it. He's still relevant to this day. And everybody who talks about Jackson State, that's the first person that comes to mind is Walter Payton. So, yeah, he's forever going to be a legend at Jackson State.
Absolutely. Gone but never forgotten, that's for sure. Now focusing on you a bit, Ryan. I mean, you had a pretty impressive college career at Jackson State yourself. Throughout your 4 years there, you recorded 206 tackles, 19.5 tackles for loss, 6 interceptions. This past season alone, your senior year, you're able to record 88 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 2 blocked kicks, and a sack. I guess my first question for you is, when did you realize that the NFL may not only be a dream, but it could become a reality?
Probably, I'll say probably when I was in high school. Before then, I was just playing football just because I was good at it, and my family encouraged me to keep playing because I was always, I always had a knack for scoring touchdowns and getting around the ball. And probably around high school when I was, college just really started showing major interest when I knew that I could do something big with football, and I've just been using it, as a tool ever since.
And what was it about Jackson State that kind of caught your attention? What was it about Jackson State that won you over the other colleges that might have offered you?
Well, as a matter of fact, although I was recruited by almost every big school in the nation, Division I. Jackson State was the only Division I school to offer me a full ride scholarship. So that alone set Jackson State apart, not having to pay for school. And then, I always wanted to play Division I football, and I had a lot of Division II offers as well, but it was just something about it that I just wanted, the free, other than the free school. I knew it was where I was supposed to be.
Well, hey, like you said, a free education, can't go wrong with that. And then playing Division I football, there you go. Now I know it was just a couple of years ago. You actually had the opportunity to play in the SWAC championship game. I believe you even recorded a sack in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I know ultimately you guys fell short. It was a pretty close game against Southern. But what was that atmosphere like to play in, the game that you guys have fought all season long for? What was it like to participate in the SWAC championship game, and what was the atmosphere like in that game?
The atmosphere is surreal. As a matter of fact, I went to the SWAC championship 2 years in a row, and then we lost in overtime both years, actually. But just the atmosphere of the SWAC championship is absolutely amazing. There's no place like it. The first year we played at the BBVA Compass Stadium, and then the next year we played at Reliance Stadium, where the Houston Texans play. So it was just surreal. Between the atmosphere and, the whole conference is watching the game and people watching from home, and it's on ESPN. It's just an exciting feeling. You get butterflies just thinking about it. But I had a blast in both of the games.
Now, of course, being a fellow defensive back, Ryan, what was it like to, kind of compete against, I wouldn't really say compete, but what was it like to play with Quay Cox, a fellow defensive back? I know he also had an opportunity last season with the Indianapolis Colts. I believe he also participated in the New York Giants rookie minicamp as well recently. What was it like to kind of, work with Quay Cox? And how do you feel you guys made each other better? That was a pretty nice defensive backfield back there that Jackson State had.
Yeah, it was cool. He was one of the older guys, so he can always, look to the older guys for, any questions or help. But just knowing that you got somebody on the field that can, change the game is a relief on its own. You don't have to worry about if somebody is going to make a play on this side of the field because that side's taken care of. So it just, allows you to play more comfortably on your side and focus on what you have to do, trusting in your teammates. But it was fun, though. We definitely had a blast together. We would definitely compete against each other, who's going to get the most picks this game or anything, as football players, just as competitors.
And seeing Quay Cox and some of the other Jackson State guys, seeing those guys get an opportunity in the NFL, did that motivate you even more to play harder and know that it's possible to achieve your dream if you're playing at a smaller D1 school in Jackson State?
Definitely, without a doubt. Just watching Quay and a lot of the older guys go through the process, coming from a small school like Jackson State, it does so much for everybody around, the stadium and guys that are around at other small Division I schools or small D2 schools. It gives people hope, and it did that for me, watching them go through the process.
Now, talk to us about your draft weekend. April 30th through May 2nd. What were you doing throughout those few days, and were you watching the draft at all? Were you expecting to hear your name called at some point in the later rounds?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I watched the draft every day throughout the whole draft process, expecting my name to be called. On the last day of the draft, I had my whole family over, and we were all watching the draft together. So I could say I was pretty bummed at first when I didn't hear my name called, and it was just, I wasn't disappointed because I knew that everything would work out for a reason. But, I did expect to hear my name called. And as a matter of fact, I didn't get a call from anybody for hours after the draft. It was about 11 o'clock at night that I received a call from my agent saying that the Lions wanted to work with me. And it was just crazy. My whole family, it was a pretty emotional day. They were all happy to find out that I would be staying home with the Lions.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. And personally, Ryan, the third and final day of the draft, rounds 4 through 7 are my favorite. I'm a fan of smaller school college football anyway, and those are, that's the day when most of the smaller school guys hear their name called. And, of course, the undrafted free agent period. I mean, you look on Twitter, Facebook, you see reports just, names flying off the radar of teams signing them as undrafted free agents. I know that teams usually start calling in the 6th or 7th round. And like you said, you had to wait quite a while after the draft to hear that you'd be you'll be trying out for the Lions. What was your reaction though to find out that you would be staying in Michigan, like you said, your hometown team, the Detroit Lions?
I was just happy, It was just like a weight off my shoulders, just knowing that I would be able to have an opportunity to play again. Meant the world for me and my family. Like I said, we were all watching the draft. We all stayed up, 3 days watching the draft pretty much. And so when I finally got that call, it was just a happy period, just a happy moment in my life. And it was actually right before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, so we were all able to watch that together, happy that I just got the call.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure that as much of a bummer as that Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was, I'm sure that phone call made it a little better.
Right, exactly.
Well, Ryan, tell us about rookie minicamp if you can. what were some of the drills the coaches were putting you through, and what was it like strapping up for your hometown team for the first time?
Oh, it was amazing. Tony Odom, the defensive backs coach, he's a great guy. His whole staff, they're really, really nice people, and they're good coaches, they're good teachers. They don't really yell. They just spend most of their time teaching, and I think that was different from what I'm used to, but it helped, And just playing for the Detroit Lions that's unreal, As a kid growing up in Michigan, you always talk about what if I grow up and play for the Lions, or your family's always telling you, we want to see you play for the Lions, the hometown team. But when you actually experience it, it's a surreal feeling, and it was great. It was great, and I was just blessed to be in that situation.
Especially over the last, the last handful of years, this is a team that's been struggling quite a lot. And, over the last couple of years, this is a team that I really thought needed some help in the secondary. Now being from Michigan, it sounds as if you did indeed grow up a Detroit Lions fan. That had to be pretty tough, huh?
Yeah, throughout the years, they've made it pretty hard to root for. But, Detroit Lions have diehard fans. And they have a diehard support system. It's going to be guys that cheer for the Detroit Lions, whether they're 12-0, 16-0, or only 16. So it doesn't, the support side, it doesn't really, bother me. But I've always, rooted for the Lions just because that's my hometown team where I've been from. And my mom is actually from Denver, so my dad is from Michigan, so I get Lions and the Broncos here at the house. But no, it was cool.
All right, there you go. Once again, defensive back Ryan Griffin out of Jackson State. He had a rookie tryout with the Detroit Lions. Joining the CS podcast, brought to you guys by the NFL Draft Bible. Visit the website at NFLDraftBible.com. And Ryan, overall, how do you feel rookie minicamp went? Were you expecting to sign a contract once minicamp was over? Was that a surprise that they decided to let you leave without a contract?
No, I wasn't hurt about it. Everything. They still have to do a lot of contract renegotiations and things are happening. Everything happens for a reason. So I was happy to just get the opportunity, and I'm sure that I'll end up in somebody's fall camp. I had a great mini camp, and I'm just excited for the season.
Well, like I said earlier, I mean, this is a team that I personally felt needed a lot of help in the secondary, and I personally believe that you would certainly help this team out quite a bit. So personally, I wouldn't be surprised if you were heading back to Detroit. But right now, you are a free agent looking to join a team. Let's say there's an NFL general manager listening to this interview, Ryan. If I were to give you a moment to sell yourself, why should they want this former Jackson State defensive back a part of their team?
Well, I'm a playmaker. I'm a genuine guy on and off the field. I won't get in trouble, and I don't know. I just I'm the best. I'm the best for the job.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Well, I'm not sure if you were able to tell this just from rookie minicamp, but once you sign with another team, because I'm confident you will, what do you anticipate will be the toughest part about making the transition from the college game to the pros? I mean, were you able to tell just from rookie minicamp?
The biggest part is just the attention to detail when it comes to the playbook. I saw a lot of guys in rookie minicamp struggling with pretty much understanding the concepts that were in the playbook. But it was pretty easy. I believe that I was well prepared by my defensive coordinator in college.
Hey, football is football, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, Ryan, throughout the last couple of years, I was able to watch you at Jackson State. I see you're a pretty versatile player. You're able to play the nickel, dime, as well as both free and strong safety. You're also willing to play anywhere, it seems like. I mean, even on special teams, whether it's gunner or kick and punt returner. When we turn on your tape, for those who may not know you too well, what do you feel will stick out to them watching your tape? What do you feel is your biggest strength?
I have a nose for the ball. I always cause turnovers. I always score touchdowns, and that's rare to find on defense. And for me to be able to have that ability to do that on defense, I think that separates me from a lot of other players.
Well, Ryan, I got to say, man, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat today. It really was a pleasure speaking with you. Certainly wishing you all the best as you continue to pursue this professional football career. Do you have anything else for us before I let you go?
No, not it. Just thank you. Thank you for the interview.
Really enjoyed speaking with Ryan Griffin, defensive back out of Jackson State, participated in the Lions rookie minicamp and is now a free agent looking to help the team as soon as possible. And that'll actually do it for today's show. Definitely appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed. Again, if you'd like to check out past and future episodes of the CS Podcast, you can certainly do that at NFLDraftBible.com, at YouTube.com/ChristianRE722, and at ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chris Shanafelt, and today's guests at Dave Birkett and at Ryan Griffin. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, take care.